In this Thursday throwback story, we're going to be talking about Mrs. Wrye. Now, Mrs. Wrye was a lady that my grandmother used to take care of back in probably, I would say, 2013, 2014, around that time. Maybe 2012 as well. I think it was like 2011, 2012, 2013, and then she had to go to a nursing home. Mrs. Wrye had to go to a nursing home. So, my grandmother's always taking care of elderly people. Um, for ever since I could remember. Um, I remember when I was a baby, she was working at like a nursing home, and then the nursing home closed, and actually she works at the same place now, the same building, but it's like a senior citizen um, housing place that she like serves food and stuff to the seniors, um, but she's always worked with elderly people ever since I could remember. And Mrs. Wrye was an elderly lady that she had dementia, and her dementia got really bad, so that's why she was sent to a nursing home. And she lived there for the last couple years of her life. But so anyway, but before that, my grandmother used to take care of Mrs. Wrye, and she um, she used to live by herself, but my grandmother would stay there some nights and some days. My grandmother would live there with her for a couple days, but not all the time. But she would have somebody um, go at nights, I guess, or something. Of course, my grandmother couldn't do it all. My grandmother would be there all day until like late evening or something. So, um, but anyway, Mrs. Wrye was a very nice lady. So I was probably, I would say, probably 12 or 13 years old or something like that. I don't, no, maybe not 12 or 13. I was maybe like 14 or something. I don't know. Something like that. It was around 2012, 2013. So yeah, I was around that age. Or maybe a little bit older. I don't know how old I was, but I remember that me and my cousin Greg, we would go down to Mrs. Rod's house because a lot of times we would go down to see my grandmother. We never saw our grandmother really that much because my grandmother's always worked a lot. So when she was working at these houses with the seniors, we would go and we would call, and she would say, "Okay, yeah, you can come down." So, but we wouldn't stay there all day because, of course, that was her workplace. So we wouldn't be there all day because she would be working. Um, but anyway, so she we would go down, and sometimes she'd give us a couple dollars to go to the dollar store because the dollar store is just right up the road. Or we would go and just go hang out and go say hi to our grandmother and stuff. So um, but Mrs. Wrye was a lady that I can't forget. Mrs. Wrye, like I said, she had dementia. She didn't know who we were, but I think she thought we were her grandchildren or her great grandchildren or something. So um, she would always try to give us. This was the thing. One time she had a whole bunch of goodies like Debbie cakes and uh, Twinkies and Swiss rolls and soda and juice and Kool-Aid. And so she actually, my grandmother went upstairs. I remember grandmother went upstairs to go to the bathroom or something. I don't know what my grandmother was doing, or clean or something. So me and my cousin were downstairs, and we were in the kitchen, and she goes into her cupboard and she takes out all of her Debbie cakes, all of her candy, all of her sweets. Her son just went to the store. We didn't know. I guess her son would just go right to the store every Thursday. So this was like a Friday or something like that. And so she went through all her cabinets, and she'd take all this stuff and she put it in like these grocery bags, and she'd give us all this stuff. And then my grandmother comes down, and my grandmother's like, "Oh, you guys don't need all that stuff." And we're like, "Hilda said we could." My grandmother's like, "No, her." My grandmother's like trying to tell us that her son just went to the store, and she was trying to give us all of her food, or not all of her food, but all of her Debbie cakes and everything. It's like, here you go, here you go. I remember she was like, here you go, here you go, here you go. She'd put some in my cousin's bag, put some in my bag. She'd be, here you go, here you go, here you go. We thought that she was just giving it to us. We didn't really know. Me and my cousin didn't really know that she had dementia. We didn't really know, but she was just, here you go. You go in the fridge. She got a couple sodas. Put like probably 5-6 sodas in the bag. Put another 5-6 sodas in my bag. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. This is literally what she did. She put a whole bunch of snacks and Debbie cakes and junk food in our bags. And my grandmother told us that, well, she didn't really know. And so my grandmother gave us like a couple snacks, like maybe 2 Debbie cakes and a soda. And, but literally, if my grandmother wasn't there, she probably would have gave us all of her Debbie cakes and all of her snacks and everything. But, yeah, Mrs. Wrye was a really nice lady. She was, it was sad to see her not really know what she was doing, but I guess my grandmother one time went into her house and she was eating pudding with scissors. So that was like around the time she had to go to the nursing home, Mrs. Wrye, because she was getting really bad with memory and everything. And I really don't like seeing people have dementia because it's very sad. Because I remember there was this lady that I used to go I remember the next door neighbor. I did a Thursday throwback story a couple weeks ago, or about a month ago or so, about my next door neighbor Yvonne that had dementia as well. And I just, I don't know, it just sucks that when a person that gets dementia or Alzheimer's, and they just don't remember. It's very sad. It's very teary-eyed, if you would say, because it's very sad. But anyway, that's a Thursday throwback story here on Mrs. Wrye, the lady. I consider her like a great grandmother, because she was like another grandmother, great grandmother to me. So Thursday throwback story here on Mrs. Wrye. Thanks for watching this video.